Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Bryant, talking to you about you and your business. I tell you, it is really important in any economy, but particularly in this economy, to figure out how to get clients to stay clients. Getting them is one thing, and it's hard enough in this era of very competitive dollars. But boy, you got to keep them once you got them. And my next guest specializes in helping companies do just that. Dan MacLennan, he's with a company called Blue Nose, and which is way better than Brown Nose, by the way. I wanted to tell you that right from the very beginning. But BlueNose.com. And, with the Brown Nose analogy and with the idea of trying to figure out how to keep customers, kind of tell me where you came up with a name like Blue Nose.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet.
So through some crazy coincidence, my co-founder and I were both born in a city called Halifax in eastern Canada. And I was raised in Boston. He was raised in greater Detroit. So when it came time to naming the company, we thought we'd name it for something we had in common, which is this heritage of our birthplace.
Wait a minute. Let me play with you a little bit here. So he's a University of Michigan fan.
He is go blue, yeah.
Yep. So there's the blue part. The nose part, though. I guess that has something to do with Canada.
Yeah, so actually it isn't related to Michigan, thankfully. Out of Halifax around 1900, there was a really famous racing boat, a three-masted schooner called the Blue Nose. And so we wanted to name the company for something we had in common. The Blue Nose was undefeated in competition, so it stood for success, and we figured, hey, that's a pretty good association. And last is it's pretty easy to spell, so you can find our website.
Awesome. Yeah, it is. You're lucky to even get that name, actually, even though it's, a little esoteric. It's also, actually spelled properly. You know how hard it is to find names of websites spelled properly? By the way, what part of Detroit is he in, the Detroit area? Where's he from?
I think he grew up in, Grosse Pointe. So he was one of those privileged kids.
Oh, one of those privileged kids. Yeah, like Bob Seger. Bob Seger used to say, I grew up in Detroit, a.k.a. Grosse Pointe. Really? We've all seen Grosse Pointe Blank. I grew up in Ferndale, which was, 1 mile north of Detroit. And I mean, actually, on the border of Detroit. I personally grew up 1 mile north of Detroit. And I should have a T-shirt that says I survived that. But anyway, glad to have you on the program. I love the concept. Sure. It caught my attention, which is I want to talk about it, even though we've already spent a couple of minutes talking about my weird fascination with your company name. But tell us a little bit about, first of all, the history of Blue Nose and what exactly you do.
Sure. Yeah, we're just getting started. We founded the company late in 2012 and spent 2013 building our software product and then brought it out to market earlier this year. So it's early days for us. But the real inspiration was solve a problem of our professional past. And so in our operating roles as leaders of technology companies in our past, from time to time we'd be presented with a very unhappy customer. And it would come as a surprise to the organization. And of course, then, you scramble, you're in firefighting mode. What can we do? What went wrong? And when we sort of unpacked these, what we realized is we were probably sitting on the data the whole time. In other words, the data that would have said this customer is likely to get to a state of being dissatisfied. One of the challenges is that data might live in a lot of places. So in our case, in the technology industry, measuring product usage and consumption is pretty important, right? If you don't use a product, you're probably not happy with it.
Right.
So there's an interesting signal. But also, you can look at times when the customer has initiated contact with the support line, either called in or sent an email. You can look at responses to surveys. So if they're filling out a survey and they say something favorable or unfavorable, then that's a signal. And the challenge, however, was all these interesting little bits of information that constituted some form of customer feedback lived in a lot of places. And so when we, in our past, sort of unpacked that issue, what we realized is if we could put this all in one place and make it highly accessible to people who had customer-facing roles, then they could be empowered to be much more proactive. They'd sense when customers are getting into trouble way before it was too late, meaning the customer was so dissatisfied they were going to leave. And they could mobilize, and they could use that information not just to deal with each customer, but maybe even spot some of the systemic issues of customer dissatisfaction. Is the product at a particular challenge? Are we not selling to the right audience? Do we not implement it correctly? The root cause could be a variety of things, but those patterns might emerge in the data.
Yeah.
So that was inspiration to start the company, and that's effectively the functionality of our product. We're building it for technology industries initially, but we can imagine in the future applicability to other types of companies as well, be it mobile phone companies or any company effectively that has its financial success very linked to customer repeat purchase behavior. So you could argue a retail e-commerce site would have such a need because these customers aren't profitable on the first purchase. They are over time, and thus you want to get them to come back.
Yeah. And we only have a short period, and I have lots of questions, so
Sure.
tighten it up, buddy. But seriously, it's fantastic. I love what you're doing, and it's like, how did it take so long to come up with something like this? It seems so timely to me.
This is true. There was a very famous software vendor called Siebel in the 1990s, and the CEO of the company was always evangelizing how important it was to have one view of the customer. And so the concept, to your point, is really old. I mean, it's been around for 30 or 40 years. I think we have the advantage these days of the so-called big data technologies that we can build systems like mine on that now make it really, really affordable to put all this data in one place. That used to be a real barrier. In other words, people would actively have to consider, well, this is really costly. Is it worth doing? Today, that cost of putting that data in one place is so inexpensive that you'd be kind of crazy not to.
Oh, man, it's fantastic. I think it's amazing. So what kind of cost is there for companies to use your software?
So we offer it to them as an annual subscription to the software, and we'll charge a customer according to how big they are. And so in our customer base, we have some very small companies, just teams of 30 individuals, up to companies with many hundreds or even thousands of employees. And it kind of speaks to your point, to this universal need, which is once you start acquiring customers, you want to hang on to them for dear life, and that challenge never goes away. No,
it never goes away. So can you give us a price range, or is there too many factors that would alter that?
Sure. Very low tens of thousands of dollars a year and up.
Yeah, very good. And so holding on to customers worth that, especially depending on, what kind of customer you're talking about. By the way, how large is your company?
So we have 30 employees.
30 employees, that's fantastic. And for relatively new, that's awesome. And I'm assuming that most of your clients are mid-market to, I would say mid-market to enterprise level?
Yeah, so to date we've been catering to software as a service and related technology vendors, and they're typically selling their product to other businesses. In time, we'll also cater to the needs of businesses that sell to consumers because the business challenge remains pretty much the same. And to your point, typically somewhere around year 2 of their selling history, as they come out from being a new company, they start to experience customer cancellations. And so now they're kind of having this existential crisis because they realize that those early customers may not have loved them so unconditionally. And, of course, by that point, they may be earning a lot of revenue from existing customers in addition to that which they're getting from new. And so that sort of conditions them to want to invest in this type of capability.
Yep. Very good. I love it. I appreciate you spending time telling us about it. And the best website, I'm assuming, is bluenose.com.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
I love it. Great interview. And that's Dan MacLennan. And again, bluenose.com. I tell you, holding on to customers is absolutely crucial. Shame on you for not checking out technology like this that would make that job so much easier. And I've looked at it, and I've been very impressed by what they're doing. So I really want to endorse checking it out and looking under the hood and learning more about it. When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. I am Kevin Price. This is The Price of Business.